Hey guys, so here it is, my 4-ingredient cake. Eggs, vanilla, flour, and sugar. Everybody usually has these 4 ingredients. We're going to show you how I make this cake. It's awesome, and it's all about technique. If you do not do it in order and as it's done, as it's supposed to be done, then you have a problem. So I'm going to show you the 4-ingredient cake. Some people call it a sponge cake. Um, it's very simple. First, you break your eggs and you put in one bowl your egg whites and in the other your yolk. Very simple. Here I'm doing all 4 eggs. That's all it calls for. This is going to be a small loaf cake too. So first step, 4 eggs separated. Egg whites, egg yolks. Now we are adding sugar. 1 cup of sugar, we're adding half of it, or half a cup of sugar to your egg yolks. And you set the other half aside and leave it. You're going to take a whisk and beat together the egg yolks and the sugar. And I did that by hand. You could have done it on the mixer, but mixing the egg yolks and the sugar together is really easy. You can do that by hand with a whisk. And as you can see, I'm kind of getting it all mixed together. And then I'm going to put that aside and I'll finish. It probably takes less than a minute to get this one done. And I'm going to set it aside and start with the egg whites. And this is where the technique changes. I'm using a modern mixer. I've got only my egg whites in the bowl. I'm turning it on high because my mixer has a setting for egg whites. Now if you don't, high is usually where you would go with it. This takes about 3 minutes and I'm going to let you sit and watch it in real time. I am beating the egg yolks just a little bit more off camera, probably about 30 seconds to a minute more. Probably about 30 seconds, I guess. And I'm letting the egg whites just go on the mixer by itself. Modern electricity is wonderful. If you had to do this by hand, some of these recipes call for beating these eggs for nearly an hour. And if you were using the whisk and going at it, or either using your little hand egg beater, it still takes quite a few minutes. I'm talking 15 minutes or more to get eggs to the stiff stage. And I'm showing you along as it gets going, how they're stiffening up. And this cake is all about getting the air in the eggs, or the egg whites, I guess you would say. And most people know that their grandmother's recipe always called for beating the egg whites, or either at least beating the eggs. Even a lot of your recipes today calls for beating the eggs some before adding them to a cake mix. And I guess that's where you should be following a direction. I'm showing you here now. It is starting to thicken up. Probably less than a minute to go, and it's going to be to a stiff stage. I think I mixed it approximately 3 minutes. I think I timed it was 3 or 4. I lost count, but anyway, this mixer's an old one, and it's put out by Sunbeam. And guess what? Sunbeam's it's out of business, but it still works. It's the only mixer I have. I do not have a hand mixer. Now I'm going to add the sugar a little at a time. This is the other half cup of sugar. Let it just kind of mix in there. And I stir the sides down because this is an old mixer. It doesn't get the sides out and pull it to it like some mixers do, but it does pretty good. We add the rest of the sugar, get it going, beat for just a few more seconds, probably 30 seconds longer. And this way, with the electricity, you have 3 to 5 minutes into it. where if you were hand mixing this, you're talking 15 plus minutes, up to an hour to get it to this stage, according to humidity too. Now, that plays a part in it. Humidity is something here that we have to worry about when you're doing your egg whites. Okay, so I'm going to turn it off now. And I'm going to show you how you know your egg whites are to the right consistency. If you can turn your pan up like this and they do not fall out, hey, it's ready. But if you turn it up and it starts running, don't keep turning it up. Put it back. Go again. So now we're going to take our egg yolk mixture where it's mixed up really well. I've got it stirred up with the whisk really well. I'm adding vanilla, which is Mexican vanilla. It was sent to me, and again, I don't measure anything, but I really don't know. I just put a drop or two in it. So it's Mexican vanilla, and then I just whisk that together. Now we take our egg white mixture and gradually add the egg yolk mixture to it. And this is where you do not want to just beat this together. I'm just folding it in with a rubber spatula. This way you add a little at a time, fold it in a little, add a little more, and fold it in, and don't over mix. You just lightly just mix it around, stir it in, and make sure it looks like it's kind of together. You don't want to see yellow in one spot and white in the other. Mix it together like it should be. And right now this cake is looking really pretty awesome because it's holding well, and I was really proud of it as I was making it. You see it mixing together really well, just kind of folding it together, and that's all you want. It's ready for the fourth ingredient, flour. And I mix just a little flour at a time and add it to it. You can use plain flour because that's what they had back in the day, was some plain flour. But mine is gluten-free. I had to just try it to see if the gluten-free flour would work in this. First off, it is a cup of flour. This is a 2-cup measuring thing, and I just put a cup of flour. I took a couple of spoons of the almond flour out, added 2 spoons of coconut flour because coconut flour kind of holds the almond flour together. It's not as grainy when you use a coconut flour in it. I added a little of this almond flour coconut flour mix along as you can see. And again, do not over mix. Just slightly moisten all the flour in the batter, and that's all you want to do. Because the more you stir it, the more air you're taking out of your eggs, I would say. And so that is what we have. 4 ingredients, gluten-free, no butter, no leaveners. Okay, I have the batter mixed up. Looks like any cake batter. Looks great, but there's no butter, no baking soda, and no baking powder in it. I've got my cast iron loaf pan. I've added some oil and some almond flour as a coating on the cast iron pan, and I start pouring in the batter. As I was putting the batter in, I realized it was probably a little too much for this loaf pan, so I decided to get a mini loaf pan and put a few spoonfuls over in the mini pan. And from there, I took and had one loaf pan, one mini loaf pan, baked it in the oven for 30 minutes at 350. And when I took it out of the oven, let it cool a little bit, Danny and I tried it, and I'm going to give you our reaction to my 4-ingredient cake. Here is my 4-ingredient cake that I made. Danny and I, the little one, we've already eaten half of it. And the big one, we've already eaten a slice off, just trying it. But I wanted him to give you his take on this on camera. The fact that most of it's gone ought to tell you something.
Well, the thing about it is,
it's moist.
It tastes like it's loaded with butter, but yet it doesn't have any, right?
No butter.
No butter.
It's moist, moist, moist. I mean, moist as any Betty Crocker cake, really.
Very moist, very soft, very fluffy.
A crunchy top.
The top is really, it's like it's got a crunch to it.
Pretty awesome.
And, I mean, it's just
it's
light. I could eat the whole thing.
We could eat the whole thing right now. This cake is awesome. 4 ingredients. You go back to 18th century cooking.
Now, is that where this was? Is this 18th century cooking?
Pretty much.
Wow. We missed out.
These cake mixes have nothing on this.
I ain't got nothing on that, I'm telling you. That little hard crust that's on top of it, and then that fluffiness on the inside. Our forefathers knew some stuff, y'all. Or our foremothers, let me say that. They knew some stuff. That is some awesome stuff right there now.
Now, I did have one issue with the bacon, but I opened the oven when I shouldn't.
Yeah, but I do remember that. She hollered and she said, "Oh no!" And I said, "What?" She said, "I opened the door too quick and it was all fluffed up and it just kind of went down."
But it's still good.
But it's still good, yeah.
And it's still
light, fluffy. Yeah.
I thought I'd ruined it. I didn't.
Did not ruin it.
So, the 4-ingredient cake from the 18th century is awesome.
Awesome, guys. You got to try this.
This thing, let me tell you, is gluten-free too.
Yes, that is the thing that I thought was just fantastic.
Because I
can't eat gluten, and I can't eat stuff that says it's gluten-free.
So this cake, 4 ingredients, gluten-free. Of course, that's not 18th century cooking, but 18th century cooking.
No, but you adapted to it.
Yes.
Okay.
18th century cooking was all about using what you had available at that moment. That's what they did. If you didn't have something, you improvised, you changed it, you fixed it. Well, I don't have regular flour. I have almond flour. I had to improvise, so my 18th century cooking has almond flour. They would have used corn, wheat, acorns.
Acorn, yeah, mostly, yeah.
Anything, any nut that they found, they ground into a powder and made their cakes. Yeah. Walnuts. So almond flour's not off kilter here in a recipe for cake.
Not in a recipe for cake. Nope. So it's awesome, guys. I'm gonna tell you. It's hard for me to find anything to eat anymore because of my issues. But, you know, when we come across something like this, I mean, she has to watch me because I'll eat the whole thing in just a little while because I haven't had anything good to eat for so long, or what I deemed as good to eat because of the way we were raised, thinking everything else was good. And when I actually get into something like this, I realize, wow, this is actually better than the stuff I used to eat.
That was bought in a store.
That was bought in a store and was actually doing the damage to my organs.
My 4-ingredient cake is a hit with this one.
Yep.
And it's gluten-free.
It's gluten-free.
Thank you from Deep South Homestead.